different game this time. We're on Tekken 7, where I am a true Tekken God Akuma player. I was Tekken God Omega before, or sorry, Tekken God Prime before Omega was released and everyone got nerfed, but as it is what it is. We're not going to worry about that. We are going to have a genuine discussion about, is Akuma really the best character in Tekken 7? Before I start, I just want everybody to take a second. Everybody, forget everything right now. Forget what you've seen, what you think you know. Everyone drop a bias. And I know everyone's going to say, well, you're an Akuma player, you have a bias. Trust me, I'm going to talk about him as honestly as possible. I actually play 47 characters, believe it or not. So, I've played a wide range of characters, and Akuma is just the main of mine. And I just want to tackle simple basics about the character and go from there. So, let's just start, let's separate this into two segments. Akuma with meter and Akuma without meter. And it's very important to understand the two, for reasons that you'll see later on. I'm going to start by just explaining the basics. So Akuma, as you know, relies on a lot of these tools. Demon Flip, right? We all know everything about this. But when he doesn't have access to meter, what does that actually look like? Well, down 4, for example. If you were to read this move on any other character, would you say this is good? A move that does 17 damage. It's a 17 damage low knockdown, 18 frame startup. That's minus 27 on block. Is that a good low? I'm not saying it's terrible, but 17 damage, knockdown, and they removed the Oki from it a long time ago. He used to be able to follow you up because he stayed right next to him. Now, look how far away you're knocked away. Quite some distance, I would say. So, he gets 17 damage, knockdown, no Oki, for minus 27. I wouldn't say that that's a good low. Just my opinion. Back 4, which is his low poke. It's plus 1 on hit. It's not terrible. It's minus 13. He will get Twin Piston for it. But 15 damage, plus 1. Not really much of a mix-up there at just plus 1. But it's there. Right? Down 3, which is what everyone loves to harp on. Every option from it is punishable in some way. If you do down 3 by itself, which no one ever should, but whatever, it's minus on hit. Right? And minus 13 on block. If you do down 3 fireball, minus 14. Some characters will launch him for that. It doesn't matter which fireball, except when you start to get in the other ones like this, which can make it safe. Although, if you block the low and do All Rising 4, it will interrupt that startup of this particular fireball. And if you go for the one to stop the person from pressing, again, you're punishable. Down forward 1, he has a pretty good one. It has decent range. It's minus 4, unlike the other down forward ones that are typically minus 3. This is minus 4. He does have extensions. If the down forward 1 hits you, both extensions are guaranteed. But of course, down forward 1, 2, forces crouch and is minus 13. He will get Twin Pistoned or punished by any other character. If he does down forward 1, 1, the 1 is definitely duckable, and you can duck launch him. So, most will just do this, or maybe go for this. But if you really want to try to get a mix-up, you know, dash into them and then catch them while they're ducking, maybe. But you are risking a punish. His amazing jab. Shitty range. Akuma notoriously always has bad range on his jab. In fact, a lot of moves that are minus 10 and have any kind of pushback, he often whiffs. Because his jab range is so short. If he does connect, right, it's plus 1 like every other jab, every extension from it kills him. Jab and DP, dead. 1-2, also dead. Now, I'm not just going to talk bad about him, I will bring up the good stuff. But we're not doing so well so far. 4-3, there's no mix-up, double high. If you do just the 4, he's punishable. And if you continue, you risk getting ducked and killed. His keep out or pushback, -16. It's got range. So it can kind of be used, but it's -16. Right. So that's just a basic of his tools. Now, his great frames come from his jump. We all know these. Ah, yes, here's the good stuff. Unbreakable throw. Right. Demon flip 3. Can be plus if you delay it. It's more plus if you delay things instead of just going right at it. Right. Good stuff. Good stuff all around. Except for the low, obviously. The low kills him. Now, most Akuma players will, you know, Rising 2 into it to do kind of a mix-up there. If they get used to your patterns, they will anti-air you. I know that some people are like, oh, this jump. It is pretty easy to anti-air. If you know what your anti-air tool is, it does become reliable. If you know when they're going to jump, you can get them out, especially if they're very predictable. A lot of Akuma players love this mix-up. The Rising 2 into Demon Flip. They love that. So if you constantly use this, you will get caught. You'd have to start mixing up with something like this, which is a different punish. So either way, you're getting punished. Or if you really want to risk it, and you can try to do that. If you test how hesitant they are. But his normal jump, it's pretty hard to anti-air that on reaction, because all of a sudden he's just in the air, right? That's pretty hard to see. Demon Flip is a little bit easier to anti-air, but of course his regular jump comes out of nowhere, and you're immediately forced to react, which no one's really going to, not with his regular jump. Unless they happen to be doing a move, they might catch him, but pretty hard. And he gets a lot of mileage out of his jump. Psst, plural. Jumps. So that's pretty good. Now, let's talk about the nerfs that he suffered before we get to meter. He lost 444, which used to be a counter hit launcher. Long range counter hit mid launcher that was neutral on block. Right? He lost that. It now does not launch on counter hit. No, it no longer launches on counter hit. Right? Doesn't even give him additional frame advantage. Just gives him 5 extra damage. Or 4, sorry. Not... Right, that's a huge nerf. And the reason why that's a huge nerf is because what that did was it allowed Akuma to play comfortably without meter. But now they really push the point. No, we want him to be meter, but terrible when he's not, which is good. So, he lost that. What hurts even more? Demon Flip 3. Right? Demon Flip 3 no longer launches. No more. No more scary Demon Flip because you don't want to risk pressing, because if you press, boom, counter hit launch. Doesn't have that anymore. No longer. And, I don't think that's a small... mention. I think that's huge to lose. Right? I think that's big. So his counter hit launchers now rely in forward 4, which is really good. It's a really, really, really good launcher. Counter hit launcher, sorry. Akuma wall travel. Something like that. Or back 2. Now, back 2, I'm not going to do a crazy combo. I'm just showing that it launches. Right? Back to is incredibly slow. Let's just start there. 23 frames, so good luck trying to counter hit anyone with that. It's definitely no Steve back one. And it is -9 on block, which means if he tries to do this, he completely gives up his turn. So trying to counter hit with a really slow -9 move is probably not recommended. You're generally just going to use this now, because it's his only decent counter hit launcher. He has 4-3, but you're never, and it's only the second hit. If the first one does, it does not counter hit launch. So it's basically just 4-3, because he lost 4-4-4 and he lost even flip 3. So that hurts, I would say, quite a bit. On top of him being meter reliant in this game, they reduced his meter gain. He no longer gains meter like Eliza does. Right? And unlike Geese, he doesn't have access to 3 bars. He still has just his 2 bars. So I know Geese got his nerf down too, but he can store 3. He can only store 2. Right? So he got his meter reduced. And Eliza has 2 like him, but gains normal. And Geese has reduced like him, but has the ability of 3. So he doesn't get to utilize meter like the other 2Ds. Now, what he can do with his meter is what shakes the earth. This is kind of the whole argument with Akuma, is when he has access to meter, we all know what happens, right? We've all seen this before. We all know what's happening here. Right? We all can understand what's happening here. When he gets access to meter, the entire game changes. What he can do is crazy. We all understand when he has meter, he will completely change. Down 3 becomes a hell of a tool to use, because now you can launch with it, and down 3 on its own is very unseeable. 15 frames, immediate low, right? Even if you don't want to launch, you can just, you know, do something like this. Whatever, right? Down 3 into anything. Meter will severely change how this character looks, feels, and plays. That all set aside, it is incredibly hard to do. Now, that's not going to be my only point. Everybody's made that point. Everybody knows Akuma's hard to play. Okay? I won't just harp on the execution part. I'm only going to talk about it for a little bit, I promise. Stay with me. It is, in my opinion, the hardest thing in the game to do. There's the debate between Perfect Electric and God Fist, which I don't find that difficult. Brian's Tonjet Upper, Hayashi's Omen, and FADC, or Akuma. Maybe Eliza's instant dive kick combos can weigh in here a little bit. Right, there's a lot of guesses as to what's the hardest in the game. I would give it to FADC simply because of necessity and elements, right? It's already hard to do, you know, down 3 into close circle forward, into 1+2, into dash cancel, all while trying to do that on a near just frame. Right, that does not sound like an easy thing to do. Whereas something like, say, Perfect Electric, you do down forward 2, and it's just timing. That's really all it is, it just comes down to timing. Time your input, and bam. But the difference is when Akuma drops his combos, he burnt his meter. He didn't get a launch. He didn't get anything, in fact, because he dropped it, which means your opponent either blocked or ducked your follow-up. So he didn't get anything additional, and he burnt his meter. He may be plus on block, maybe. And yeah, say if I was trying to do the Perfect Electric, though, and I get Electric instead, oh well, I just bound with back 2-1 after. And it works. So if you fail, you still get to get a combo. You may not get a God combo, you'll still get 70 damage. With him, if you fail, you get nothing. Nothing at all. You just failed, and you netted nothing. Right? And it is important, it is necessary necessary. Because of what we talked about, him having a short moves list, which, by the way, I didn't show that yet, but 80 moves, and he only has one 3-hit string, and it's this one. Everything else is 1 or 2 hits. And yes, I understand it's because he's a Street Fighter character, that's how they're designed. Whatever. It's still an important thing to mention. He's either going to be 1 hit or 2 hits. Right? So, my point was simply, it is necessary that you can do FADC, because if you can't, trying to play this character with just this and no FADC, it's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. With no string mix-ups, you know, you can't go mid-low, or, you know, and this 50-50. What 50-50? Down 4? You're gonna risk launch punish, which people say, oh, the Hell Sweep's launch punish. But what's your mid? Down for 2-1, which is launch punish. 4-4-4, which isn't a launch. Right? He doesn't really... He can try to do this mix-up while rising 2. But if he does this, he can risk getting anti-aired. And if you don't have meter, you get what? 35? Alright. So, and I know what everyone's going to say here. Oh, they put that easy mode, EX, this one, right? This can just let you do the combos easy. Right. So, when you do this, it scales. If you guys look at the damage counter, 50. 50 before you even touch them following up the combo. You're at 50 scaling, right? Which means anything that you do after, let's just do down forward 1. There, you're already at the lowest point of scaling. That is not the case if you do it the proper way. You know, if you actually bound. If I can get over my... Right, 70. So now you get an additional big hit. It does matter. And I believe the sequence does more, right? 47. Okay, 45. But then you get the scale damage, right? It does matter. But the big thing to note, big thing to note, when I do this sequence and I fail, I get +6. +7 at the max. You know what I mean. You die by using the easy mode. This is why I don't do it. So, if you want to try easy mode Akuma and just do that, you die if they block you. And the important thing to note is, if you can't do, you know, these combos where you cancel into that stuff and blah blah blah, right? If you can't do stuff like this, then how are you going to do, say, a double meter combo where you do something like this, and then, you know, and then how are you going to be able to down 3 into the EX like that? You won't be able to do that, because if you can't do this, you know, if you can't do down 3 into back 1, let's just say, then how do you cancel into another one, into, you know? So no matter what, you will need FADC. Unless you want to stick to just 1 meter combos and you just do this. Well, then you neutered your damage and you made your punishability way higher on a character that already, as I showed, doesn't have the greatest frames. You know, it just takes you down a step further. So FADC is a necessity. Perfect Electric Wind God Fist, it's not a necessity. You can play Kazuya without it. And stuff like that. And it's not a to bash on Kazuya, I'm just comparing. So, with meter, we all know he can do crazy shit. All know. And the important thing to note is, let's just take an example, right? Say, you know, we're going back and forth. Pretty close match. And let's just say I get down 3 into back 1. I'm just gonna use 1 bar meter. I get down. Jesus, I got the main rank curse now all of a sudden. Down 3 into. Really? I can't do it now. Here we go. Right, and I get that, and I do something like this. Something like that. Let's just say that. Right? I get 90 damage, and I can take away everything. We've all seen the crazy, you know... I'm not going to pronounce that YouTuber's name, but the MW Can, right? We've seen his crazy combos in the match. I dropped that, but I was going to do Raging Art, whatever. We've all seen these crazy combos. Let's just say I robbed the entire round from you. I was on a pinch of health, and I just... one flip later, blam, you died. I've done it in matches. I have my clips of me doing it. It's happened. After Akuma does that, and I just want to stress, this is kind of the argument that people always say. Oh, I've watched YouTubers, they one jump and then he does double barb meter and then he carries you all the way to the wall, and at the wall he does Raging Demon and then you die. It's like, do you know how many things have to go right for that to happen? Like, let's just take that for a minute. You'd have to land, say, jumping 2 or focus attack or something. Or maybe even just down 3. I'll come down a little bit. Let's just say you land down 3. You have to do 2 near just frames to even get the combo going. You have to be in a position where you're far enough away from the wall to do the additional jabs and get that damage in. Put them on the wall. Hopefully you're at the right range. Then do a wall combo, including the Rage Art. So you also have to have access to Rage. Right, this is where I have these debates with people who kind of overreact to the Akuma combos. They situationally happen. It's kind of like if I based everything I know about, I'm going to keep using Kazuya, off of one perfect electric combo, and he broke the balcony, and he crazy, and it's like, right. But what are the chances that in a match you're going to be at the right range where he has double bars, he has double bars a meter, and he's in range, and you're at the right range to be away from the wall, and then he gets you, right? You could be on a stage that's infinite. He could be really close to the wall and have to do a different combo. He could not have access to Rage at the time, but only his meter, or vice versa. He could have Rage but no bars. It's not realistic to say that combos like that are Akuma. I'm not saying he can't do a lot of damage without it. Like, even if I do a basic or the most optimal down 3 combo, I might fail it a couple times. Oh no, I got it. Oh no, never mind, I spoke too soon. Right. Even if I do the basic, most optimal, oh my god. Bear with me for a second, guys. I haven't played Akuma in quite some time. Even if I do the most optimal Akuma combo from down 3 with no walls, which is gonna be something like this, right? That's using 2, which makes it a just frame. 111. That's the most optimal without... That's the most optimal combo from down 3 without walls and access to 2 bars of meter and range. I gotta be honest. Is that a lot? Like, I'm being serious here because in a game where characters like Chloe exist, I'm not saying Chloe's really good, but she hits you once with that roll and does more damage than that. Craig Marduk hits you with one combo into his Rage Drive and does that. He had to burn his meter and use his Rage Art and has to do killer execution just to net that. And then, the thing that I keep stressing to people is once he does crazy shit like that, that may win me the round. That may get me the round where I needed that clutch. But what if that was like the second round? Now I start the next round with no meter again, which I've already discussed is not the greatest. He suffers fundamentally. Shitty jab range. You know? His jab range, his frames, we've already discussed that it's not the greatest. I'm not saying he's not even top 10, but the best character in the game. Because he can situationally do crazy shit. Now, the other part where it's more likely is at the wall. Right? We all know what Akuma can do at the wall. You know. Oh, man, I'm getting pissed. Okay, we all know what he can do at the wall with 1 bar of meter. Even without meter, it's still not a. It's still not something to sneeze at. Well, if I could land it, that is. Oh my goodness. Right, still nothing to sneeze at. Though, your mix-up for that, like your forward, 2-1, is punishable. Just putting it out there. Or, you know, and of course, if he has access to multiple meters, we all know what happens here. Then, it, you know... Oh, well, I dropped it. But anyway, we all know what happens when he has 2 bars of meter at the wall, and then it, you know... I'm just not gonna get it. But we all know what happens. Right? It may happen. It will situationally happen. Where you're at the wall, and he has access to meter, and he kills you. But, again, I would stress, what if you're at the wall and he has no meter? And if you're a character that can easily get away with it, I mean, you can always sidestep to get around it, and again, he has to be in clean hit range. So if you're a character that has good keep out, that's going to be really hard, because, you know, if I do it from here, it's not guaranteed. Still not guaranteed. I have to stand about here at the most to get clean hit. That's a lot of prerequisites just to get this to work. And when it does work, I'm not gonna lie, it does a lot. If you're on stage with walls, and if he managed to get you to the wall, it can hurt. You know, especially if he lands jumping 2 at the wall and then, you know, holy matrimony. Does it do a lot, right? We all have seen it. We all know what he's capable of. I'm never gonna get it. Right? We all know what he's capable of. But this is again where I would say he burnt all of his meter to do that. With Rage Art, I probably would have done like 146, 147. And yeah, I'm not risking anything. That's the other argument, because he's plus on block. But I would also say, let's just say I have 1 bar of meter, right? Let's just, for argument's sake, I had 1 bar. And I went for the mix-up, you blocked it, I'm +5. So now I have no meter. What's his mix-up exactly? Like, let's be real. Let's honestly be real for a second. Where I do this thing, you block it. Sorry. Right, we're in the neutral. And you block my mix-up. And I run into you at +7 at the max. What's the 50-50? Down forward 1. Maybe he'll go for launch punishable Tatsu. Maybe down forward. Maybe 2 into Demon Flip. Right, like, it's not like it's not, especially when you consider the only counter hit he can even use here is forward 4. If he did it perfectly, he'll get +7, and then he can use a high to try to get you. But this is interruptible even at +7. So it's like, what's his mix-up exactly? We already discussed, him without meter is not the strongest. You might get down 3 BP. If he has access to meter, then this works. But if he doesn't, what's the mix-up exactly? I mean, it's not bad that a launcher is plus. Not at all. Of course, that's really, really good and really, really broken. But there are some characters that benefit a lot from being plus and some that really don't. I mean, let me stress that, let me change that. There's some characters that benefit a lot more from being plus than others. Everybody benefits from being plus. But obviously there are some characters that benefit significantly more. And he's one of those characters where it's like, okay, if he's plus with no meter, what's the mix-up? it's only scary when he has access to meter. And to further that, it is only scary when he has access to meter and the execution to make that meter work. The only move I refuse to talking about that is the common complaint with Akuma is this one. DP. The reason why I won't talk about it is because it always yields a negative result, but I'm going to talk about it now. In my mind, DP, as it should be, is used as a parry of sorts, right? It's used to interrupt. You know, you use, say you're on Kaze, you do forward 4, and you want to use your plus frames. Oh, here comes my DP, right? How is that different from any other parry? He's invincible, yes, but a lot of parries can interrupt, like DP. The difference that I would say here is with Akuma, when he's blocked, he's what, minus 34? Yeah. So he dies, and what's his reward? Let's take off Rage. He gets... Really? Jesus. Okay. He gets 26. 26 damage. For minus 37. It's invincible, but the reward and the risk, is that worth it? You're gonna risk getting launched, and badly launched, for 26 damage. And this is kind of where I'm like, it's just as much of a risk to Akuma to use that, because what people will do with any parry is if you spam that, they will bait your parry. And when they do, you will die. I would say that Akuma's DP is one of the only parries in the game that you can actually react to. You know, when you're fighting Jin, and that parry where he can block while parrying, and can launch you situationally with that parry, if not at least get a punish that'll definitely reach 26 damage. He just... Oh, I put my hands up! Okay, now they're back down again. Are you gonna be like, oh, I see just hands launch! Just like Asuka. She has two different times where she can do a very fast one, a very short one. So, as soon as you see her parry, oh, I know it's a short one, launch! Or, oh, I know it's a long one, hold, wait, okay, launch! But with Akuma, he block stuns you, and goes 30 feet in the air, and comes back down at minus 37. It's very easy to react to, okay, he just DP'd, and I'm gonna launch him. The same thing with, like, Yoshimitsu's flash. All of a sudden, he just twitches, and then we just, launch! Like, at least his is reactable. And it can very easily be baited. You know, especially if the Akuma player relies on it. You can bait them quite easily. Force some plus frames on them and watch them go. So, just my overview. A character that does not have incredible jab range whatsoever. In fact, one of the lowest in my opinion, I think, is him. Right? One of the shortest jab ranges. His frames, right? Not all of them. He does have good ones like jumping twos and demon flips, fours, and everything else, right? But on his basic lows, his 50-50s, right? Not to be understated. He's definitely not a frame god. You know? One of the shortest moves lists in the game. Because honestly, if you take away like a lot of these moves that are just obvious, like you can do this fireball normally, but you can also do it while jumping, and those count as two different moves. And even with all that considered, it just equals out to 80. Right? So, no mix-ups because he's a Street Fighter character, so it's going to be 1 or 2 hits. And he can situationally do crazy shit if you have the highest level of execution. Which, by the way, I would argue that just as a thought to everybody that wants Akuma's damage nerfed. Why would you have a character that's super high execution but normal reward? Right? Well, imagine if Akuma's meter combos did 60 damage. Everyone would be like, oh yeah, that's fair. Why would you... Historically with Tekken, it's always been the rule that things that are harder net more rewards. That's why there's electric and a wind god fist. If you do the wind god fist, it's minus 10 and, you know, it's less damage. Where if you do the perfect, or not, sorry, or if you just do the electric input relatively perfectly, you get the electric, it's plus 5 and 25 damage. Right? Why would Akuma, who has to do near just frames, burn meter that we already discussed he really needs, just to get the same damage as everybody else? He should have that damage. Now, one could argue, is his reward too much? That's a whole other debate. But I still think it should be more than average. Yes, because his execution is more than average. You should never have high execution and low to average reward. That character exists. It's called Eliza. And that's why she's the least played character in the game. So I'm just stressing, I think that the overview, jab range, his frames, without meter, he really suffers. He doesn't have his counter hit Demon Flip 3 anymore, or forward forward 4. His sequence has come down. His meter has been nerfed, or his meter gain has been nerfed, so he doesn't even gain it as much anymore. And even when you get access to his cheesy stuff, it's locked behind the hardest execution in the game. And when you try to go for the easy version of it, you lose damage and become launch punishable if they block you. I struggle to see how, because sometimes he does crazy shit with the highest execution still, he's the best character in the game. Number one. I think people are afraid of the status quo being broken. That's what I truly think. Like, everyone thought, okay, Akuma's the best character in the game, so every tier list I make has to include him at the top. Every single one. Regardless of how I feel or anybody, it has to be it, because that's the status quo. That's how it's always been. Therefore, it has to stay there. You know, characters have been nerfed and buffed and everything. Things change. He was once, upon a time, the best character in the game because he had counter hit Demon Flip 3 and forward 4, which allowed him to play without meter. And his meter used to gain as fast as Eliza's, and his combos used to hit harder. And, you know, he used to be ridiculous. But he's come down a lot. And I would like to say that, no, I think it's time to actually take a better look. And I don't agree that this character is the best character in Tekken 7. Is he top 10? Probably. But the best, undisputed, he is number 1. No. I don't think he's even top 3. I don't think so. After the wall tech loss, his counter hits, his terrible jab range, his execution requirements, his situational requirements with meter, because he sometimes and sometimes does not have those, and when you have those, you have to be on top of your game, and when you burn those, you are back to square one with your tools, and you're supposed to fumble all those mechanics and somehow come out with the best character in the game. I do not think so. I think it requires a very skilled player to make this character work, not just in execution, but in terms of game plan, and mind games, and delays, and situations, right? It requires all of that just to make him work. And when he works, he's a thing of art. But he is not number 1. If you disagree, that is totally okay. It is my opinion. I am an Akuma main. People will call me biased, and I'm okay with that. But nothing I said here was incorrect. Nothing I said here was biased. I point out his good parts. He can do crazy shit with meter. I showed a couple combos. I dropped them mostly. But I showed a couple combos. Yes, he can launch you off 10 frame. It's not he's and the idea that he can death combo you off 10 frame, no. No. Unless you get the combo, you break the wall 3,000 times and wall to wall and right, but in an actual realistic match, no, you won't get death comboed from a 10 frame. You won't get 90% from a death frame or a 10 frame. Like, realistically, is he the best character? He depends on circumstance, meters, walls, etc. But no, there are characters that work on any stage in any situation. I don't think you can consider him the best because he works really well in certain situations. So that's my take on it. I hope you're all having a good day. I hope it didn't bother anybody, right? I don't mean any harm to anybody who's disagreed or anything like that. I think we're all able to come up with our own opinions and disagree or agree or whatever. That's just my take on it. I don't think he is. But I leave it up to you guys. Hope you're all having a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.